Okay, so we're just going to get right into it. We're starting off with primer on her eyes. And I'm just going to give her a very smoky eye for this, because the main focus is going to be on her face and wherever else I put the effect. So I just used NYX eyeshadow base on her eyes. And I'm making sure to put it on her eyebrows as well. And also underneath. So I'm going to start with her eyebrows first, and I just used a thin angled brush, and I'm just sticking to the Naked palette to match the color of her eyebrows, and I'm just making her basic shape. I'm not changing the shape of it, I'm just filling them in and giving it an arch. And going back in with concealer to fix any mistakes. I kind of made them a little too thick, so I'm going back in to kind of thin them out just a little. And the concealer I'm using is from e.l.f. Cosmetics, and I'm using the Colors Light. So I'm just taking a black eyeliner and I'm just filling in her waterline, and I'm also making sure to apply to her lash line as well. It's okay if this is a little bit messy because I'm going to go back in with shadow. And I'm using black eyeshadow with a little bit of a glitter in it, and I'm just going along the lash line, smoking out a little bit. And I'm trying to also mark where I want the shape to start at the outer end of the eye. And I'm also going into the inner corner and bringing it up. This is also just to see how far I'm going to bring the color out. Now with a dark brown shadow, which this is Dark Horse from Naked One, I believe, I am just going along the crease and I'm applying it a little bit heavily. This is going to be the transition color. And I'm first making the shape, and then I'm blending it out as much as I can. So you could go in as little or as much as you want until you get the desired effect. Then taking a clean, fluffy brush, I'm just blending everything out to take away the harsh lines. Now taking black, I'm going on the lid, and I'm just bringing it up towards the edge of the crease. And I'm just reapplying it because I wanted it to be as dark as I can get it to go. And also applying in the bottom. Now taking a neutral color shadow, I am just putting it in the inner corner, and then taking a highlight, I'm putting it towards the brow bone area and blending that also into the crease. It was a very long day. Anyway, taking a primer, I am going around her face, and I'm just using NYX Photo Primer, and then this is where you also apply your foundation. I wanted to do this first since I knew I was going to be working with only one side of her face rather than do the face effect first. So the way I'm applying her foundation is I'm using medium to dark palette and medium to light palette from e.l.f. Cosmetics, the foundation palettes, and I'm applying it in a contour manner. I've done this very few times, but it just worked out for the way I wanted her face to be shaped. This is actually for a photo shoot, so I'm making things stand out a little bit more than you would normally wear. So that's the reason why the highlight and the contour is going so strong. And I'm just going back in with the Beauty Blender, and I'm going over everything to make sure everything is very well blended. Okay, so now I'm just doing the contouring, and I stuck with my Smashbox Cosmetics contour palette. And I'm putting St. Lucia blush from the Blush and Contour palette from e.l.f. Cosmetics. It's a little bit of a dark rose color, but it just worked out. If you blend it, it makes a really nice effect. And I'm adding my Moonlight Pearl highlight from e.l.f. Cosmetics as well. I think I'm in love with that highlight. Okay, so let's get to the fun stuff. I'm taking liquid latex and I'm making the shape of where I want some of the cyborg pieces to show, and make sure you don't get it on your hair. So I'm applying only on 2 parts of her face. I didn't want it to be one of those things where it's like half Terminator and half human, so I wanted a very subtle humanoid figure, because I feel like we've all seen that before. And I'm just over applying layer after layer as it dries. So whenever each piece dries, just apply again until you feel like you're good. I think I might have applied about like 4 or 5 layers, and it smells terrible. So if you apply on your lips, beware. So once it starts to dry, watch your model dance for a little while. Okay, so apply your second layer. Well, this is not my second layer. This is technically my 6th or 7th layer. And keep going. And then I'm going to apply a skin tone powder on top. It's easier to work with, and it blends also well. It takes out the shine and it calms it down. And very, very carefully start to peel away at the latex. I wouldn't recommend the scissor like I'm using here, but just very, very carefully, especially if you're working with somebody else's face. Be very careful. I cannot stress that enough. And all I'm doing here, I'm not stabbing at her skin. I'm just lightly lifting up the edge of the latex so it looks as if her skin is peeling. So since this part has a pretty big strip, I end up trimming that part of the liquid latex. But once again, since it's very close to her hairline, I made sure to be very careful with how I pulled at it. And I'm just trimming off excess latex. And once again, same for the cheek, especially since, this part of the skin is very, very, very delicate. Be careful. You try to use your fingers, try to use something less sharp. It just, I've been using this way for a few years now, so it just works for me. And although it's fun to freak out the models and the clients when I do this, I'm also very careful. So if you're going to do this to yourself, also be careful. Now, when it comes to doing anything cyborg related, I noticed that a lot of people who I've spoken to kind of stress out over where to make the lines and the circles, and they kind of stress over how to go about placement. I would just say, it literally is just a bunch of lines and shapes. So you could be creative, you could go on your own and just improvise, or you could take a reference photo. What I did here was actually, it was partially a reference photo from a cartoon I saw on DeviantArt. And then at this point, I just went my own way. And what I did was I took the jumbo pencil from NYX and cottage cheese, and because it has a little bit of a shimmer to it, it was good to mark where I wanted the lighter pieces to go. And I'm just shading a gray color in between, bringing in some dark pieces now and then. So this is all about shading and lining and where you place, and I feel like it's a very good practice for shading in detail. So this is something that is very good practice to improvise, and it's pretty fun once you get into it, and it surprises you how well you pay attention to certain details. You don't have to go so far into details like I did, but that's only if you want to. It could still look pretty cool. But this was a photo shoot, and I kind of wanted to be very precise with where everything went, from which colors went where and which lines went where. So I'm just using grays and black and silver colors, and I'm just doing a lot of shading. Now, the reason why I didn't place liquid latex in the bottom is because I didn't want it to appear as if, like, you know, she's a cyborg that got into a fight and got her face ripped off. I wanted it to be more humanoid, where it's like part of her. So yeah, there's pieces of flesh, but then there's pieces of metal. Like, it's not something that's underneath. It's like who the character is. So if you want to, you could take liquid latex and you could totally just apply this in the bottom. Also, an all-around detail if you want. This is the kind of project where you could just seriously be as creative as you possibly want. There is no limit to this. This is probably my fourth cyborg-like character I've done in like 9 years. So each time I've ever done one, it was always different. This is the first humanoid one I've done where there was less blood detail. So it was actually a lot more fun, and I got way more into the detail work in this one, which isn't because it's a humanoid and less Terminator style. It's just because I just felt like being more creative with it. And it's okay to make some overlapping lines as well, like I'm doing right now. I'm just taking a silvery liquid liner. I can't remember where it came from. I'm pretty sure it's Wet n Wild, and I just, you know, used its overlap because it's so striking as metal. And I'm going back in with more silver. Like I said, this is a lot of shading detail. Now I'm just taking that same silver liquid liner I used before, just to make some little nuts and bolts. Like I said before, this makeup is literally all about shading and shape. So from this point on, I did not use a reference photo. I was kind of just going on my own with whatever I pictured in my head. And now going in for the skull, I'm not going to be making any lines or stuff like that. This is just going to be like the cranium part of the humanoid. So I'm just doing, once again, shading again, coloring the whole thing in cottage cheese with the jumbo pencil, and I'm going in with silver, and I'm just making a gradient. So towards the edge it's going to be lighter, and then going towards the outer corner it's going to be darker. And this is all coming from Naked 1 and Naked 2 palettes from Urban Decay. And now I'm taking a blue shimmery color from Inglot Cosmetics, and I mixed it with black, and I'm making veins coming from the bones, coming from where you would see metal. So I'm just, to make veins, it's super easy. Just make squiggly lines, think of branches. And I'm just, putting other little tiny chips in her face, same thing, without the liquid latex, of course. And I'm just shading, adding different placements, using the back of the brush to help blend, which also works very well. So now I decided to give her an arm piece and a hand piece. I didn't record the hand piece because my camera ended up dying. But it's pretty much the same as we did on her face and what we're doing on her arm right now. Just lines and shading. So just on her arm, I just shaded everything black, and I let the little metal pieces that I drew in kind of highlight through. So I kept that the same color of the pencil. I didn't add any other coloring on top of it. It just stood out because I shaded everything black. And I went back in with a liquid liner again later on to make extra smaller lines. And, you know, more blending work. So this is pretty much the look. I will post another video of the complete look and during her photo shoot process, so you can see how everything came out. But yeah, so this is it, and I hope you all enjoyed, and stay tuned for the other half of this video.